In this video, just want to introduce two new members to the Tor VM sectional matrix band family. So we can start by looking at the classic sectional bands, which came in a small, a medium, and a large size, and then also a small with a ledge, a medium with a ledge, and a large with a ledge as well. So these are all categorized by their height, and they all have a similar convexity to them. So the first new band are the double curve bands, which are made of the same hardened steel as classic bands, and they come in a small, a medium, and a large again. But these have been made with a greater convexity. Okay, so they are able to bridge larger gaps and create a different contact profile. And the other range of bands that we have available is these new titanium ones. So these are the same curvature as the double curves, so more convex. But because they're made of titanium, we are able to put a titanium oxide coating on, which allows us to color code the bands, which is actually really helpful in the office if they get mixed up to help separate easily. So they're the same heights, small, medium, and large. And the titanium is a really interesting metal. It can be made a little bit thinner, and it has a kind of a memory-like quality to it as well. So it's quite interesting to work with. So let's try and just demonstrate the advantages of a double curve in this scenario. So here we've got an MO cavity on an upper molar, and you can see it's got quite a large bridging gap, by which we mean base of the cavity to the adjacent tooth. So we could do with something with a little bit more convexity to help bridge that gap and give us a nice contact profile. But first, let's try to solve it with a classic band to show the difference. So here we've got a large in height, classic sectional band, which is 35 microns and is the hardened stainless steel version. So we can place that, and you can see it fits pretty nice, and gets a contact to the adjacent tooth, and we can wedge it in position. I've just slightly customized the wooden wedge so it doesn't create any deformations. Okay, so there's the sectional band as we would have used them classically, sealing nicely along the base. But if we look at that in a profile view, you hopefully can see that the contact point is actually quite high up on the adjacent tooth because the sectional band lacks a certain amount of convexity. And while this contact point created might be better than made with a flat band, you can see some of those traditional problems with the contact being a little high, getting some, maybe being a little unsupported, and creating some dead space underneath. And this problem doesn't go away when we place our ring to create additional separation. If anything, it will flatten a little bit more as we place that. So let's just try and solve that same problem, but this time using a large double curve band. You can see it's a much more convex band. And as we place it, you will see almost immediately that it wraps really nicely on the buccal and lingual because it's more convex, and it manages that bridging gap a little better to make a better proximal contour. Okay, and it's sealing very nicely there. If you look at that from the side view, we can see that the contact point is lower down and more convex, and the marginal ridge is rolling over nicely. And so now we can really easily compare the contact profiles made with these two different bands in this situation. And with the double curves, we've got this broader, lower contact with a easier to clean embrasure, which is more supported. And here you can see how that convexity is maintained even after placing the ring, as the convexity helps sort of support the shape as well. So why wouldn't we always want to use a double curve band? Well, if you have a very tight bridging gap, like in this cavity here, which we've got on the lower molar, then the double curve may be too much. So here I've got a medium double curve band, and I'm going to try to place it into this very tight space. Okay, and you'll see that in placing that, the band is going to buckle internally and become deformed. So this cavity with a tight bridging gap is then ideal for this medium classic sectional band, which has got less convexity, which can seat easily and is curved enough to give us a really favourable contact profile. We'll just show you this scenario done with the coloured titanium bands. So these bands are quite flexible with this memory quality, and they're even thinner at 30 microns, which is favourable if you're using a non-ring separator technique, but they have the same curve, so they'll keep those same really nice contact profiles as the double curve in a lot of cases. There's one other nice feature of the titanium bands which we've been playing around with, which is when you have a really wide box, like in this scenario. So we can place the titanium band, and the added flexibility is helpful, but maybe you can see that as that's seated, it's a little narrow in the embrasure areas, buccal and palatal, and maybe could wrap a little bit more. So what you can do with the titanium bands is actually take them and run an instrument across them to what we would call is activate the band to make them sort of curl up slightly. The band can then be placed as normal and it won't deform, but it will just help to stabilize it in these wider boxes, and it'll help to wrap buccal and lingual and seal that area. You see, it's creating a lot more of a favourable contact profile there. And these can be used with a separating ring as usual, or if you don't want to use a ring, you can just rely on the wedge for separation and secure them with some liquid resin. And these bands are particularly suitable for this technique because they're extra thin at only 30 microns. So there you have it, 2 new band types which are a great addition to the Tor VM's already amazing range. We've got double curves when we have bigger bridging gaps, which are in the same stainless steel bands that people know and love, and then also in the titanium bands, which are really easy to identify because of the colour coating and have a slight memory-like quality and are even thinner at 30 microns. So please give them a try.